If you've done some programming or software development in the past, you might have come across the term of Boolean operations or Boolean operators. And what they basically do is, for example, if you have an if statement in your code and you want to have two arguments in your if statement and say something like if variable 1 is true and variable 2 is true, then do something else. And this kind of AND between those variable 1 and variable 2 basically is a Boolean operator. And we can use something similar inside of Cinema 4D, and it's actually called the same thing, a bool operator or a bool object. And yeah, here's a little slide for that where you can see some details about this, but let's head over into Cinema 4D to actually cover this by ourselves now. So the bool object you find here at the first green button, and you find it on the right side, and as I mentioned, it's called a bool. So this kind of object now is a whole new category of objects. For now you probably only used like this blue cube and some other parametric objects. So the green objects basically are what we refer to also as generators, because they generate something new for us. So for example, if I throw in a cube and I throw in a cylinder, something like this, as you can see, nothing much happens because the cylinder is just inside of the cube. But if I move the cylinder a little bit to the outside here and maybe a little bit to the top, you can see that we cut away something from the cube. And if I head here over to the settings of the bool and go to the attributes, you can see we have here the Boolean type, which is named A subtract B. So A would be our cube, B would be our cylinder. And with the subtract, we can subtract object B from subject A. But we can change the mode. We could also say, for example, that we want to union them. So now this would actually behave as one object. Or what we can also do is we could say intersect, and then like the intersection of both of those objects will be generated by the bool generator. And last but not least, we also have A without a B, and actually there is this is basically just the A object but without the B object. So it will cut away the B object, but it will not generate the kind of inside geometry we had when we had the subtract thing on. Now, a good thing about this kind of generators is they are very non-destructive. What do I mean by that? So if we come back to the thing with the parametric objects and turning them into a polygon object, this is a very destructive thing to do because we can't go back. If you remember, making it editable is like a one-way street. So yeah, that's a destructive thing to do, but in this case there is no other way to do it. If we want to have access to the polygons, we have to make it editable and lose the kind of parametric options. But with the generators, the good thing is I can now move things around and change settings of my parametric object, and everything will stay parametric. So that's a good thing from the bool operator or the generators more or less in general. Now, you can also kind of combine bool operators as much as you like. So if I would add a new bool operator inside the bool, and I just put the A and B thing inside this, so this would also be like a subtract, we could go ahead and add something new. So let's add a tube here, and the tube goes in here. So this would now be object A and this would be object B, and now I can subtract the tube from this object and get something like this. So it doesn't make much sense for now, but just to show you that we can combine as much as we like to combine. And also let's go back here into the cube, maybe activate the fillet because I like to show you something else, and I deactivate the work plane for now so it might be a bit better visible. Now What might happen with the bool, or speaking maybe a bit more about the downsides of this bool object, is the geometry which you might get might not be so healthy, or you might get trouble with shading. So if you have watched the shading surface video, you will know about the shading, of how objects are shaded. And as you can see, we kind of have an error here, or kind of a mistake artifact thing. And this is because the bool operator isn't that smart, and it cannot add like more connecting edges and points here to make this look great. But what you can do is you can optimize your objects by yourself a little bit. So for example, if I go here to the cylinder and decrease the amount of height segments, you will see that the surface will clean up again. So yeah, it might just be something simple like that. In some cases it will not work that easy. So the bool operator is a very fast and cheap way to do this kind of cutaway thing. There are actually better methods to do this kind of thing, but they're also more complex and more difficult to learn. So as long as you don't want like a perfect object and just want to try things out, or get some objects which are like very small in the back, you can use the bool object. But if we would like to model something like this, which is very close up, and maybe we do some transformations on it, then the bool operator might come to its limits. Another thing to note here is basically we activated the fillet, as you remember, here in the cube. And if I look now on the edge here of this cylinder, you see the beveling, or the surrounded edge, it's not going through. It's only where the cube is, but not where the cylinder is. Again, this is something where the bool operator or bool generator is not very smart, and we have no like option or checkbox we can just check to continue this kind of beveling. So we have to find other solutions for this, and there are of course other solutions, and I will do another video just on that topic, and it will be called beveling edges.